This episode of the PC Perspective Podcast is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/PCPer and enter code PCPer. Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 409 being recorded on July 20th, 2016. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Allyn Malventano.
It's more than halfway through the 7th month of 2016.
Okay.
I don't know why this came out. I had a conversation with somebody earlier today about how
You're old.
Yeah, when you're old, time goes faster so that you get older faster.
It's funny how that works.
And it's completely related to being in school.
Okay.
Sure, why not?
Well, I don't have, I'm not worried about August 18th going back to school or something like that, right?
Oh, so you mean you're not so worried about specific,
I don't have a specific time set goal,
Yeah.
on this day my life will change because I'm going to be in school, and
Sure.
then I'm really just going towards May where I get out of school again and I have all this time off. For us, it's just it's just another day. Still not dead.
I have a different theory about that.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so from when you were 7 years old, it seemed like that was kind of forever because your lifespan only was about 7 years old. From when you go from 7 years old to 18, it again takes forever because you're going through all these changes. You are doubling your lifespan and more than that,
Right.
and so everything seems like it goes slower. But then you go from 32 to 42. That's only 10 years. That's a quarter of your life. It's a smaller chunk, but it
might be a quarter of your life, my friend.
Well, my life, yeah. But so everything kind of goes faster because your point of view is that it's longer. So a year is actually shorter every year because it's a smaller fraction of your life.
Huh.
Yeah. So everything sucks as you get older.
That and
Got
just
it.
the general
Exactly.
depression
Sorry.
and tiredness.
You lost me at the beginning when you said once I was 7 years old, and then all I heard was that song for the rest of it. So
let's get to the really important questions of the week. How many Pokemans do you guys have?
0.
All of them.
Ken, how many Pokemans?
All of them.
And by all of them, he means
I caught
-1.
them all.
You did not catch them all. You are a dirty liar.
How do you know?
I don't know.
0.
My Pokédex says
great.
I have caught 29 Pokemon.
Out of how many?
How many of those are repeats?
No. That's 29 individual unique
How many
ones.
Pokemon have you fed to Pokemon to evolve Pokemon?
Quite a few. I have ground
Yeah, I
up
just
little
recently found out
Pokemon.
this whole cannibalism aspect to Pokemon.
It's
Great.
called transferring. It's not. You're not.
Call it what you want. Call it Soylent Green for all I care.
I saw a
feeding
comic.
Pokemon to Pokemon.
I saw a comic about the transferring thing. It was pretty gruesome.
Yeah, I mean, and all you do is you sort them by their combat power, and you take the guys at the bottom, and you go, it sucks for you, it sucks for you, it sucks for you. My wife, and I want to be very clear about this about Pokemon Go. My wife made me play this.
Oh, so it's her fault.
It is, and she will admit this. She was playing it for several days before I played it. I was like, no, I'm not going to play that. I don't have time for this crap.
Right.
No, and I was
As you should have said.
poo-pooing it, whatever.
Yeah.
And then she gave this line of, why don't you ever like things I like?
Oh,
And I was
Jesus.
like, oh, Christ. Okay, fine. I will download it, and we'll go for a walk together with our daughter, and we'll catch
She
Pokemon.
pulled that card on you.
And now
over
it's like
Pokemon.
And now I'm like, where am I going to go to lunch today? Well, Cheddar's has a Pokestop that currently has an active lure. And I can drive right by Chewy's. That is another Pokestop and get some things.
Meanwhile,
there.
the managers at
And
Cheddar's,
indigestion is acceptable when I eat there.
the manager at Cheddar's is punching in his credit card info to buy a bunch more lures.
Oh, man.
And just keep planting them,
Yeah.
or whatever it's called.
I thought we were to
say-
lure Pokemon, not players.
I mean, and it just makes sense to buy the $99.99 collection of coins, right? It's the best value.
Why do you know this?
That's what it tells you.
When you go into the store, like you have to buy.
No.
Please tell me
No, I
you
haven't bought anything.
Okay, good.
But if you go there,
Yeah,
like clearly you're going to run out of Pokeballs. That's the whole thing. Is they give you like 100 balls first to catch Pokemon, but eventually you run out of them. You have to,
Get them at
Oh, so you
Pokestops.
can't.
But you only get like 3 at Pokestops.
Oh, okay. So you can
keep
potentially
making those rounds, bro.
play for free.
Yeah.
You get a car, it drives itself.
I've seen pictures and people on Twitter talking
Just
about.
autopilot. He's autopilot, and he's just like, "Yep, got that one." Got
Is
that
there not
one.
an app for that built into the Tesla yet?
That's true.
It just drives around eating the Pokeballs.
But see, like I've seen pictures of screenshots of the game in like downtown San Francisco or down to like New York, Manhattan area, where it's like literally you can walk every block and there's another place to get more stuff. Here, it's much more spread out. So even though my church / new office will be a Pokestop, I'll be able to go every day.
Awesome.
And then I come back from lunch and I can hit it again, and
Downtown's pretty good.
is it downtown Cincinnati's pretty good for it?
Ryan, why are you walking around the block for the 5th time today?
Anyway, let's get into stuff of the week. If you think we're creating good content, if you like what we're doing, if you think the shows we do are interesting, the videos we do are interesting, the articles we do are good and solid and informative, you can support us directly through Patreon, and that's at patreon.com/PCPer, which takes you to this page, where you see all these friendly faces, and this is basically your avenue if you want to directly contribute to us, if you use an ad blocker or something like that, and or if you don't and you just think, hey, these guys are doing good stuff and you want to support it, you can do that here. You can, if you want to, and I want to make sure everybody knows, if you just want to see Josh in a bathtub at any time, you can just go to patreon.com/PCPer, and this picture will always be available for you.
Always.
All right.
Always be available for you.
And if you make it to $3,000, we'll have a new picture in my totally redone bathroom upstairs.
Ooh.
Is there amount of money I can pay to get that picture removed from the internet?
There absolutely
is.
No,
Yes.
there's absolutely a picture, a payment for that. So,
Yep.
and also don't forget, if you make a contribution during the show while we record it, I will announce your name and either your increased contribution or your new contribution on the show, as I'm doing right now for my daddy, who just pledged $1.06. So thank you to my daddy.
Yeah. I'm glad he's finally discovered your
just
podcast.
pledged $1.06. Also worth noting here.
Has nobody done Tree Fitty yet?
I don't think so.
Need
Fitty would
about
be good.
Tree Fitty.
I do
we
have.
need that tree fitty.
This is my confirmation email for some office space for QuakeCon 2016. So I don't know if we've ever actually officially said it on the show, but we're going to go to QuakeCon.
Yep.
We'll be there. We'll have our hardware workshop on Saturday of the show. I think that's the 6th. August 6th, and it should be at 11 a.m. at the main stage. So we're working through all that. I'm sending out emails for pricing and getting T-shirts set up. I think you're going to really like the theme we're going with this year. I think it's very topical, and
gonna be good.
I'm looking
Get
forward.
hats made.
Yeah, we may get hats
we
as
might
well
get
as
hats,
shirts this time, but we'll see how that goes. So that's we'll have more information on that in the next week or so once I get pricing confirmed and we get all of our graphics and stuff made for it. We'll be ready to go. So if you are in the Dallas area or want to go to the Dallas area in early August, which will be hot, you're welcome to go. And I think I'm going to rent a sweet Toyota Sienna. Although it turns out I can rent a brand new Toyota Tundra for $100 less for the week than a Toyota Sienna.
We know we can fit in a Tundra.
We know we fit
and
in a
I
Tundra.
know that we fit in a Tundra, yeah, but
Yeah.
it won't have a cover on the back.
True.
Probably.
Are you worried it's going to rain?
Well, on the drive to and from,
cardboard and
I got some plywood.
I'm sure they'd really
I mean,
like
We just
that.
make a makeshift
I'm sure
plywood.
they'd super
they're
appreciate
renting
that.
a truck. I mean, what do they expect?
I'm going to go.
Is the truck going to still have enough space for a giant thing of animal crackers?
Yes.
Yes.
If it doesn't, I'm
Awesome.
not going.
Zach Attack pledged $6.66.
All right.
I
He must be playing Doom.
I will say, speaking of 666, I was at a church festival this past weekend,
Where are you?
and I was playing big card poker. You know what big card poker is?
No.
Were you putting on the church festival?
No, not yet. I'll have my own church
Yeah,
festival
we're
next
almost there.
summer.
Almost.
But at Big Card Poker, it's basically a tables of 10 people.
Sure.
And they deal you cards. It's just 5-card stud. Like, you're not treating whatever.
So what's
And
so big about it?
thing. It's just, you just go there and you put $1 down, and then the winner, it's split the pot. Half goes to the church, half goes to the winner. And I was sitting there drinking beer, playing Big Card Poker, and I won twice with 3 6s as my winning hand
At church
at a
Big Card
church
Poker.
festival. And I kind of thought, Yeah, there's probably something to be said for that.
This is because we're buying a church.
I guess. Nobody booed me off the stage.
Did you just hear it?
Yeah, I just burned a little as they handed me. I still took those dollars. Don't think I didn't take that $5.
He took those dollars. Yeah.
Arbiter edited his pledge from $5 to $9.99.
Josh.
$9.99.
That's a very excited one. I like that one. All right, let's move on to other stuff. We have a contest going on PCPer.com, a killer contest, if you will. Killer Networks, Alienware, and Logitech partnering together to offer up a pretty impressive prize pack here. Grand prize winner is an Alienware R15 gaming notebook worth $1,200.
All right.
That's pretty impressive. And obviously it has killer networking, wireless, and I think wired as well. So that's courtesy of Alienware and Killer. And then 5 runner-ups will get a price pack of Logitech G hardware, a G633 headset, a G810 keyboard, and a G502 mouse. That combo is worth $390 total. So 5 people will win that. And then 1 person will win this laptop. If you just go to the main page, PCPer.com, and scroll down and look for the Killer Networks, Alienware, and Logitech Summer Giveaway, you have the ability to enter for that. So there you go. Now, as I flipped the screen too early on Ken, let's get into the content for the week. We're going to start with the GeForce GTX 1060, which I feel like we've talked about every podcast for like a month and a half.
Maybe because they've sent us the card like a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were able to do like a preview thing. Well, now the reviews are actually out. So the whole first page of this article is basically stuff we've already talked about, right? It's a GPU 106 GPU, 1208 CUDA cores, 1506 base clock, 1708 boost clock, 80 texture units, 48 ROPs, 6 gigs of memory running at 8 gigahertz, 192-bit memory bus, 192 gigabytes per second, 120 watt TDP, 4.4 billion transistor GPU. It is a full GPU 106 with a starting MSRP of $249. Now, what's interesting here is if we look at it compared to the RX 480. For example, like people like to get hung up on specs. The shader core count, the core count is dramatically different between the two architectures, right?
Okay.
The NVIDIA part has 1280. The RX 480 has 2304.
Do they work the
Stream
same?
processors. No, they don't work the same.
Okay.
Clearly not. And also the clock speeds are very different, right? The NVIDIA ones are running at 1506 megahertz and the RX 480 Polaris 10 GPU is running at 1120. You can see here there's other differences. The AMD part has more texture units but fewer raster operators. They have 4 and 8 gig varieties as opposed to NVIDIA's 6 gig.
Okay.
But if you look at like raw memory bandwidth, the 8 gigabyte version at 8 gigabits per second has 256 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth compared to 192.
Okay.
That's a sizable difference, actually.
Yep.
And then we've talked a lot about the Polaris power issues that have since been resolved. But at 150 watts TDP, the new GTX 1060 is 30 watts less than that, and in our testing, actually
like it was
stays
lower.
significantly below, not significantly, but it is below the 120, 120 mark.
Yeah, it wasn't
testing.
like riding that number. It was more like 100-ish.
Yeah.
A lot of
So,
the time.
so the first page is kind of a summary of stuff we already know, and then the second page is actually mostly summary of stuff we've already know because we've had the card. We talked about it not having SLI. We talked about it having a single 6-pin power connector. This is the Founders Edition / reference design that it's only being sold through NVIDIA.com. It's $50 more expensive. It's $299 instead of $249, and it is a limited run. It is a true virtual release, meaning that this is acting as a reference design, not just a Founders plus reference design.
Sure,
type
they're
thing.
eventually going to stop producing
Correct.
those, and then the board partners will keep making whatever 1060s they're making. Yeah.
Exactly. That was something I like to do off the top as well in our reviews is we kind of look at clock speed variances. One thing I will say about the 1080, the GTX 1080, is that its clock speed did kind of waver a little bit more than previous NVIDIA architectures had. With the 1060, we didn't have these issues at all. Running Unigine Heaven for 10 minutes at stock settings shows this result. Or the blue line is your clock speed.
Yep.
And it drops a little bit as the card heats up.
Sure.
As expected, but it is very stable at, let me scroll down here and cheat, at about 1838 megahertz or so.
And that's
right
total
across the board.
stock, everything's stock.
Everything's
You
stock.
didn't adjust
Yep.
anything.
And the fans, the temperature gets up to about 73 C or so. It's kind of where it levels off. Now, when we did our overclocking on it, which I'll talk about in a second, clock speeds were still very stable under what I saw as like a quick initial maximum overclock. That was with a plus 200 megahertz offset on this.
Wow.
Which is a lot. Now, the GPU temperatures are now getting up to 79 degrees Celsius, probably peaking at 80. But our average GPU clock went from 1838 to 2149. So actually 210 megahertz faster.
It's pretty good.
Than that. And that's obviously, we're using Precision X. We're kind of spiking up the voltage on the left-hand side. To, we're peaking out the power target, that type of stuff.
So this one also lets you do that custom mapping for the...
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I forget what that was called.
I don't know. I don't find it incredibly useful, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
I forget, but I do forget what it was called now. Somebody will remind me.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a significant amount of overclocking headroom on the Founders Edition on the reference card. So I have 3 other retail cards already in the office that I'm trying to get through. So we'll see like if they see anything different. I'm going to guess that they're all going to be very close to the same.
Yeah, because it's like you're making like half the amount of heat compared to like a 1080. Right?
Sure.
So,
but I mean, just in terms of like overclocking, the differences between the retail cards and that.
Right.
In it, like the MSI retail card I have, which we can go ahead and over to the next. I'll scroll over here to this page real fast. This MSI card, for example, is a 1060. It's got a huge PCB, completely custom PCB. It has an 8-pin power connector. It's got a back plate. I don't think it's going to be able to overclock that much more. We'll see what it is. It'll definitely be a cooler GPU in terms of temperature,
right?
Than stock, than reference. But I don't think it'll overclock dramatically more. I think NVIDIA's limiting of voltages is really where that bottleneck.
Yeah, and those other vendor cards don't necessarily unlock that any further,
do not.
Right?
They have not since the 700, 600 series.
I don't even know if 600 let you do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
There was that one with the jumper on it or something that was all
but even then it was still iffy. Yeah. And then we also have this EVGA card in, which is a 6-pin. It's a short PCB, single fan design, but it's still overclocked.
That's tiny.
Out of the box by 100 megahertz.
That's not even the tiniest. Our mini SKUs for the 1060.
Yeah. So we got retail stuff to look at. Power consumption, obviously with all of the stuff about the RX 480, we had to spend a little bit more and get more specific on the power consumption of the RX or of the GTX 1060. We want to make sure there wasn't the same problem that existed. This is an interesting graph here. This might be a little bit too close, but the blue line here at the bottom is your GTX 1060. And then the orange line is the 980 up here. Yellow is the GTX 1070.
Okay.
Gray is the GTX 970, and green is the RX 480. This is in Rise of the Tomb Raider at 1080p under DirectX 12.
Okay. So the 480 is similar to a 980?
480 is similar to the 980, and the 980 is a little bit higher. It goes a little bit higher as the GPU gets hotter.
Yep.
But notice that the 1060 is well below.
Yeah, it's running like 110. Like if you look over at the Legend.
Yeah. It's running at about 110, kind of peaking up to about 115 over here probably. But I find it interesting that both the 1060 and the 1070 are both under the other 3 cards in this comparison. The 970, the 980, and the RX 480.
Yep.
I mean, clearly Pascal's efficiency is more or less unmatched in these results. And we see a similar thing here in The Witcher 3, right? Now, in terms of the detailed power consumption, where we actually break down where the power is coming from, here is The Witcher 3 at 1080p. The white line up top is your total power. The green line is 6-pin power over the external power connection, and the red line is your motherboard's 12-volt power. And if we take a little zoom in here, you'll see that the red line is peaking at between 50 and 55 watts.
Okay.
Right? Or so, maybe a little bit higher than that. Maybe up to 58 watts. Or so, and we compare that to that's actually a little bit higher than what we're used to seeing on NVIDIA GPUs.
That is true. Usually they're more separated than that, but it's still below
the 66 watt,
below the 66
and
watt,
below the current limitation of. Excuse me here. Let me figure out how I went back there. The current as well. So this is Metro Last Light 4K. This was our worst case scenario in our RX 480 testing.
You're looking at current or power?
This is power.
Okay.
Now we do see spikes over 120 watts over its TDP, right? Up almost to 125 watts, so over it, but not by a whole lot. But if you look at the red line again of motherboard power, we're not hitting 60 watts. We're not even getting up to 60 watts. We're still kind of at that 58 range right there. And then if you look at the current, which is kind of where the actual danger lies and the amperage
Yeah, the
throughput you
actual
get there.
current, yeah.
The green line here is our motherboard 12 plus 12 volt current. And remember, the limit on through the motherboard through PCI spec is 5.5 amps.
It's well below that.
And this is, maybe hitting 5 amps, maybe spiking up to 5 amps here.
Did it cross over it when you overclocked or not? Or
It does. No, actually, so, okay, I take that back. Oops, what's going on here? Hey, screen, come back. Weird.
Interesting.
No, so I did do the overclock testing as well.
Yep.
And in terms of, let's just look at the current graph for that. If we look at current, this is Metro Last Light 4K overclocked. That is
that's
plus
like the worst
200.
case.
Worst case scenario we could get out of it.
Yep.
The green line is again 5.5 is this line here, and it
stays below
almost
it.
gets to it
Okay.
there. So it's meeting the spec.
That's all we care about,
right?
really.
And that's obviously something we're going to be looking at going forward. So
Cool.
performance-wise, I'm not going to step through all the benchmarks here. I will say this. In 5 of the 7 games that we tested, actual games, the GTX 1060 was faster than the RX 480.
Okay.
In 2 of the games, the RX 480 was faster than the GTX 1060.
Okay.
Those 2 games were Hitman
In DX12.
DX12
Okay.
and Gears of War.
Boom.
No. Gears of War, also a DX12 title.
Yep.
Rise of the Tomb Raider is a DX12 title, and then the NVIDIA card won in that one. The other one that's new and interesting, obviously we'll talk about a little bit, is 3D Mark Time Spy. In here, you'll see that the 1060 does beat the 480 by a very slim margin in this result as well. They're pretty close. The 1060 is the top score. The RX 480 is the bottom score there.
Okay.
So those are your relevant benchmarks. My conclusion to this was that the GTX 1060 is the faster graphics card. Because like in GTA 5, it's like 38% faster. That's definitely its high point in terms of performance gap there. But it's 10 to 15% faster in those types of titles, whereas the places where AMD is faster, it's 5 to 10% or so in those 2 titles.
Okay. So just on average,
On average, the 1060 is a faster card. I think I was expecting the 1060 to be a bit more faster.
Okay.
Over compared to the the RX 480 than it turned out to be. But we'll see when we get our retail card testing done, and our RX 480 retail cards are going to start coming in as well to see how that comparison does. Now, again, we have the whole pricing debate. Founders Edition at $299 is not where you want to go with this. The 1060 at $249 compares very, very well, in my opinion, against the RX 480 at $239.
Yeah.
Assuming all these cards end up in stock again someday. Right?
That would be useful.
So for a $10 difference, a 1060, in my mind, is a slightly better option, right? Now, the argument is that, and we'll talk about this in the next story, that with DX12 and asynchronous compute, it's possible that the RX 480 might have better legs moving forward if software is kind of built in that way to take advantage of it, as we've seen a couple of titles like Doom and Vulkan, or
especially Doom and Vulkan, which we don't have results in this article just because we can't frame rate Vulkan Doom.
Yeah. So like we can use tools like PresentMon to get average frame rates.
Yeah.
But we can't do our normal frame rating, like capture-based stuff, because we don't have an overlay for Vulkan yet. I'm working on getting one.
Yep.
In which case, then it will absolutely be a part of the test suite. And it's possible we may need to throw it in there in an average. The problem is PresentMon is kind of...
It's not necessarily representative of what you get from frame rating.
Not necessarily, but it's also not super precise way of doing the testing, because of the way you have to turn it on and off and things like that, and you have to cull a lot of data out of it and stuff.
Yep. Especially in the case of Vulkan Doom.
Yeah. So
it kind of throws the PresentMon results.
So that's a 1060. I'm excited about it. I think it's a really, really good card for $249, but I'm more excited to test the retail cards in the coming weeks. So
cool. Are any of those retail cards actually going to be that lower price?
The EVGA card is $249.
Okay.
And I have an Asus card that was not pictured in the story that is $249. And then the MSI card that I showed was $289. Those are the MSRPs.
Okay.
We can check on StockEdit.
And then the Founders is $300.
$299. Yeah, but
Okay,
but
so
it's
there are
only being
cards-
sold at Newegg.
there
or
are
at,
cards
I'm sorry,
that-
at Nvidia.com.
Yeah, there are cards that are going to be the
Yep.
other price.
Yep.
Because I saw a lot of griping about like
Yeah, and
people saying, "Hey, you're not going to find it at this lower price." But if
that's a totally fair complaint, especially looking at the 1070 and the 1080s.
Yeah.
I absolutely get it. But I think Nvidia is aware that at this price point, people are very much dollar conscious.
yeah, especially if it's
right?
$50 out of
Yeah,
$250.
if suddenly every card is $299, the 1060 is not a good purchase against the RX 480.
Yep.
Right, at $249, it very much is. So I talked for a very long time about that stuff. Any of you guys have any thoughts or questions?
I'm so happy. Now get that song out of your head. No, I'm finally we're getting more mid-range cards, and certainly the RX 9 480. Too damn many
Yeah.
stinking
Yeah.
numbers. The RX 480 is it does look like a good card. I mean, it had its little issues, but drivers kind of fix some stuff, and it performs well. It's got 8 gigs of memory. It's got adequate memory bandwidth. Pulls a little bit more power, but not extremely so. Not that you would notice. And plugging in a 300 watt, R9 290X, it's a nice change of pace that you can get
Right.
that same kind of performance at half the TDP. But it's kind of reminiscent of the old GTX 460.
Yeah.
We had this big monster 480s that nobody liked, and then suddenly the 460 came and it hit a really good sweet spot of power and performance and money. And this is right in the meat of the market of the gaming market at $250. So yeah, you're going to see stuff going upwards of $299. And the higher end MSI card is $289, though I'm pretty sure that those prices will degrade a little bit over time once
Right.
they get back in stock. But it's great to see 14 and 16 nanometer stuff hitting at these price points where a person who works in a department store,
Yeah.
flipping burgers can actually afford this card after being able to save for a while instead of blowing it on a $450 1070 or a $700 1080.
Yeah.
It's going to be a nice jump over the 980s, the 290X, 390X, and all those old cards.
I was gonna say I just checked now in stock, and they're all out of stock now, but there were 7 GTX 1060s listed at $249 or $259.
Oh, wow.
On launch day. Now they're out of stock. The only one in stock today, currently, as we record this, is the Founders Edition of the NVIDIA store for $299.
Yeah.
So take of that what you will.
That's for the
NVIDIA.
price they promised.
It means
Yeah.
the
I'll give
supply
them that.
demand curve is somewhere in the middle.
yeah, obviously.
So, and when I look at just as a simple update, the 1070s, there are lots of 1070s in stock now, but I still don't see any in stock that start with a 3 in their price point. So that sucks. But hopefully, now that we're seeing so many in stock all the time, we'll actually start to see prices come down. And then 1080s, as I look today, there are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in stock, but they're all $699 or above. So they're all Founders Editions ish.
So let me ask you this:
Okay.
when we're looking at the overall graphics world and the current market as it stands, do you think the lack of 1080s is indicative of yield issues that they disable portions of the chip to get it into TDP and working range, or is the demand for a $700 card that much?
We don't have hard numbers.
So
Obviously
based
not.
on my
This is why it's called speculation.
based
sure.
on my conversations with people, it's not because of yield issues. They are selling a lot of those cards.
Yeah.
My guess would be, based on sales outlets' comments to me and board partners' comments to me, is that they are selling more 1080s than they sold 980s when they launched.
Well, I mean, you've got a section of the market that's saying, hey, that's $300 cheaper than a Titan. I'll pick that up.
Yeah.
They've been selling $1,000 GPUs for better part of a year and a half now.
Yeah.
So, and they've
probably
been selling
still people holding on to their GTX 680s and 670s.
Yeah.
And just, hey, I'm going to put $10 aside every month, and I'm going to get the brand new card. And 4 years later, you got enough money.
Well, think about that statement. Remember how successful the 980 and 970 were when they launched, right? Remember seeing the market share graphs when 970 and 980 launched, and like AMD and NVIDIA kind of split after that. And if what I'm guessing is right, that they're selling more 1080s than they sold 980s.
Yep.
That would be a significant thing.
It's a lot of GPUs.
It's a lot of GPUs with high margins, like high. What do you call it? The individual pricing points, like ASPs, average selling prices. Yeah, like that would be significant for them. They have nobody in NVIDIA is going to say anything because they're like in a financial quiet period. Remember when Raja was here, he couldn't say a whole bunch of stuff because they're in a financial quiet period because of like getting ready for the quarter release or whatever. Yeah. So we may know more once that releases. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
there was a couple of people in the comments asked about VR stuff because we didn't put VR specific results in this particular article.
Yep.
But you can actually go off of what was it, the 1080 review we did where we had like 980 results in there. And you kind of combine that together with like, so you got RX 480 and the 1060 both kind of like on par 980-ish, right?
Yep.
So 980 was still fast enough to go 90 FPS in even the most demanding title that we were trying to throw at the GPU.
Yes.
And that just kind of carries over, right?
Yep.
So you're actually good with a 1060 or an RX 480 for most of the stuff that's out right now for VR stuff. And
ironically, probably only NVIDIA Funhouse being the taxing one.
Right.
Well, yes.
1060 is the min spec for Funhouse.
But here's the thing. Funhouse is probably going to do SMP.
Yes.
That'll be the first thing
that
comes out to do SMP, right? And that'll let that card do more graphic work.
I haven't tried it. Has anybody tried Funhouse on an AMD card? Will it run? It uses physics, so I'm going to guess not.
I don't know.
Technically, it could run on the CPU.
Yeah, but it's more like one of those carnival games where you just keep throwing the ball and nothing falls down.
Oh, so it's
even when
more
you hit
realistic
it square on.
then. It's actually realistic.
So aside from Funhouse, there's no other VR titles that we know of out yet that are going to take advantage of SMP. So you pretty much still can call the 1060 performance for VR, similar to what the RX 480 performance would be in VR, because it's not, aside that one game aside, it's not doing, any new trick that has to be implemented.
Right.
Just like how the Vulkan stuff has to be implemented in the game engine.
Yep.
So.
All right. Let me see here. Patreon. Terry Lee pledged $3 to the Patreon. Thank you very much, Terry. And Alvin Malventano
Really?
pledged $11.11. Thanks, Alvin.
Really?
That's what it says.
I'll have to call my cousin.
Call your cousin Alvin, Alan. Alvin Malventano pledged $11.11.
I don't have a cousin,
That's
Alvin.
pretty good, actually. I could appreciate that.
But yeah, it's good.
Oh, man. Okay, so let's talk about the other big story of the week. This is the release of 3D Mark Time Spy. It is a new benchmark from FutureMark in the vein of Firestrike. But this is their first DirectX 12 benchmark. And it's, first of all, let me say this. It's pretty looking. It's really good looking. And I actually think it's just the demo itself is pretty impressive to watch. So now it's built on DirectX 12. They take advantage of DirectX 12 features, one of which being asynchronous compute that we'll talk about here in a second. And this is an interesting table. So they talk about how many vertices, triangles, tessellation patches, and compute shader invocations Firestrike had, which was their DX11 based benchmark.
Okay.
And they talk about how many TimeSpy has.
Yep.
Right. And it's an order of magnitude difference. Right. If you look at I don't know, more than that, actually. If you look at triangles, the maximum triangles in Firestrike Graphics Test 2 is 5.8 million. In Graphics Test 2 of TimeSpy, it's 14 million triangles. That's not an order of magnitude.
If you watch TimeSpy, you can...
It's more than 2x.
If you watch TimeSpy, you can understand where it comes from because there's an awful lot of crystalline, polygonal kind of stuff in there that's definitely doing some, like, a large number of polygon work.
Right. Vertices is where you get your order of magnitude difference there. You go from 2.6 million vertices in Graphics Test 2 to 40 million in that one, right? And then, this was the promise of DirectX 12 and Vulkan and Mantle and all these APIs, the capability to be able to do these things. I have some videos here. If you guys go to the story and check them out, you can see I had 2 GTX 1080s running in SLI, running it at 25 by 14 at 60 frames per second, captured natively. So if you just want to see it run with kind of its maximum. Somebody all right over there?
Yeah.
Sorry. I got all kinds of dogs barking. I'll be right back.
That's fine. And then we have the benchmark demo of it going as well. So now the interesting thing is, this is the first. What is going on here? This is the first test where it's very easy for us to enable and disable asynchronous compute in the benchmark.
Yep.
And so we use this opportunity to essentially run the test with async compute on and one with it off, and then look at the differences, right? So I'm just going to scroll to those results here. And so here's what we see with our NVIDIA results. The 1080 and the 1070 see between 5.5% and 6.5% performance advantage when enabling asynchronous compute.
Okay.
Right, so the scores go up from when it's disabled to when it's enabled. There is some tangible benefit to having asynchronous compute enabled on Pascal architectures. That is not the case with Maxwell.
Maxwell does nothing as expected.
Minus 0.1% and plus 0.1% change. That's a pretty small delta.
Margin of error.
Within margin of error on the
Okay.
980 and the 970.
It's literally 3 points on the one test and 5 on the other.
Nice.
Yeah. It's like, not a lot.
So that is... NVIDIA has said that the Maxwell architecture does not have asynchronous compute enabled in drivers.
Okay.
Right?
It could supposedly physically do it, but they
have
never...
always stated that it would support it, but it's not enabled in drivers. Here's my statement. If it's not enabled for this test today, it will never be enabled for Maxwell
because it's the old generation now. Like
it's the old generation, and when 3D Mark comes out with a test that uses asynchronous compute, you use asynchronous compute. Like, even if you think it might, like, you put every resource in it. This is a benchmark that's going to be immediately adopted by every technical reviewer out there, every system vendor that's like specing which parts they're going to put in their next laptop.
Yep.
And it's going to be used for years.
Yep.
So
There's
this is
still
not,
3D Mark 01 sheets and motherboard BIOSes.
Right. Exactly. Same type of thing, right? So if it didn't happen here, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So the argument of Maxwell has support for asynchronous compute is kind of over. Whether or not the architecture does, NVIDIA has decided it's not worth the software trouble to enable it. You know, they've talked about, like, sometimes when you enable it and if it's not implemented perfectly, it can actually cause performance regressions.
So for all intents and purposes, it's not in Maxwell.
Yeah. So now let's look at the AMD side of this, and we do have one SLI result. The Fury X increases performance by almost 13%, the R9 Nano by 11%, and the RX 480 actually gets an 8.5% boost from having asynchronous compute enabled.
Fury X went up that much. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It did. So, I mean, these are impressive changes on the AMD side, right? The RX 480 is kind of within spitting range of where the 1080 differences are, but it's pretty clear from looking at these numbers that the GCN architecture benefits more from the asynchronous compute implementation in TimeSpy than the NVIDIA one does.
Yep.
Even with Pascal, and obviously with Maxwell, it doesn't matter. So those were our results, and we talked about what that meant, essentially that Maxwell asynchronous compute should be dead to everybody. You might as well erase it from your memory. It never existed. It never happened.
Yep.
But with Pascal, the argument was like, oh, Pascal doesn't have asynchronous compute, and we're showing that it does have asynchronous compute built into it, right? Like, we're seeing an advantage there. Now, interestingly, because this is the way the world works today. when those results came out and we saw those differences, the new predominant theory was that TimeSpy didn't implement the right kind of asynchronous compute, and NVIDIA's architectures don't support parallel asynchronous compute.
Which is what?
I don't know. So I have asked some specific people for I wanted a clear definition of the difference between parallel async compute and, quote, async compute. And they have said, sure. And I said, can I have it in the next 40 minutes? And they said, no. So I tried to do that before the podcast to aid in this discussion. But so Scott wrote a story about this on the site, right, where the discussion was what he basically describes to you what is asynchronous compute.
Yeah.
How does it work? why is it implemented? What are the different queues? What are the different command lists? How is it a thing? He references our performance results here, and it was even a complicated enough issue that FutureMark felt the need to publish on their site an editorial blog post, or whatever you want to call it, looking at asynchronous compute as well.
Yep.
Like, hey, this is how we implemented it. Here's how Microsoft describes it in DirectX 12. Here's how these queues work. Here's how these command lists work. Here's the difference between direct compute and copy queues and command lists. Here's how we implemented it. Here's what effects we used. That they're talking about particle simulation, light culling, environmental reflections, which there are a lot of because of all the glass panes in the thing. Unshadowed surfaces, horizon-based ambient occlusion. They talk about here's their queue usage. They show you
that's what their
diagram.
That's what their benchmark is doing.
Here's how the workflow works. Here's where the weights go in to do the synchronization, and after the fact. And they talk about what the tasks do. They even walk through like GPU view results to show you, like, here's a 970. There is one queue that is populated by work to be done.
Yep, the bar at the top
in it. Here it is, a closer up. Like, so this is a queue, and then these 3 gray bars are empty queues that the 970 is not filling. Right, here's the Fury X right here, and you can see that these 2 queues, even though there's not a whole lot here, you get like a little blip of purple and then more, like it's filling 2 queues of work. And here's the 1080. It also has a top queue and a compute queue down here, right? So they're running them similarly. Now, the accusation, we actually posted wrong story here. I did an interview just today, like literally a few hours ago, with the director of engineering from FutureMark, talking about, hey,
this is the guy that wrote that post. Right?
Yes, wrote most of it.
Most of that post,
So he's got a bit of an idea what this is all about.
Yeah, kind of knows what he's talking about.
Not much, but...
And it's actually a really good interview. It's 21 minutes, 22 minutes long, and we talk about, like, why they decided to use async, what the process was, and that, like, this is this whole company's job. They do one thing. They make benchmarks. And, like, 3D Mark is the one that they make money off of, probably, right? And so he's like, he was very adamant. It's like, we don't just like do shit just because.
Yeah, they're not operating in a vacuum. That was one of the, like, the big takeaway was that, like, look, like, we're trying to do this in the way that we view, like, the typical game developer would do it, right? Because, like,
and they didn't just think about it. They asked game developers.
Like, they talked to game developers. Not only just game developers, they talked to NVIDIA. They talked to AMD.
Talked to Intel.
Like, all those companies, they talked to Intel,
it's
right?
Fine. I mean,
I know it's kind of laughable when it comes to GPU stuff, but, like, still, they talk to Intel, right? Because
they got a mobile benchmark. Why not do it?
So, it's just like, and not only that, but if you just think about it, just like, okay, you have game developers trying to make their games, right? They have teams of guys making their game engine to do their thing, right? So do the 3D Mark guys.
Yeah.
Right? So do these guys, right? They have to actually implement the thing into the benchmark. They have to put coding time into it, right? So they have to make the same kinds of decisions on, well, how can we optimize for, feature X or feature Y or feature Z? And does it only apply to this one card or does it apply to all cards or things like that, right? They have to make those same decisions on programming time.
Right.
To put stuff in. But they're also getting feedback from all the vendors, from all the GPU makers along that process. Like, they're looking at their source code.
Yep.
Like, AMD is looking at the source code for this thing.
Yeah, AMD and NVIDIA both, like, vet the source code for these benchmarks.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm sure that they're not neither of those is 100% happy about how everything is implemented, but that's always going to be the case.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
Yes, yeah, accurately. I
mean, just look for the code that detects if it's an NVIDIA GPU and says wait.
Right.
Yeah.
Pause 10 seconds.
Wait a minute.
We don't want that code in there.
It was an interesting discussion because apparently the accusation against the FutureMark benchmark was that they're not using the right kind of asynchronous compute.
Yeah.
Right. Or they're not using it fully. It's not the parallel type. It's preemptive
that's
compute.
Racist.
So wait. So along the lines of this parallel thing or whatever, just to clear something up, can Pascal do, like, 2 different kinds of workloads spread amongst its cores at the same time?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like so.
That sounds like parallel to me.
Here's the problem: NVIDIA will not be very specific about its asynchronous compute implementation.
Okay,
and the reason that is, and I believe this, is that the AMD implementation is better.
Okay,
it's
because they've got the 4 ACE units at the right at the beginning of the pipeline.
Exactly.
So they're asynchronous compute,
and they've got 2 hardware
execution.
schedulers on Polaris now.
Yeah,
right. They have implemented asynchronous compute better.
Yeah, because they've been at
NVIDIA
it for longer,
and they've definitely they deserve a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
and NVIDIA just kind of injects code in the middle of workloads into their execution units, and I think that's probably more driver controlled than it is hardware.
Yeah,
Do you
maybe
get that impression, Ryan?
I don't know. Right, like. Kind of, yeah. I guess kind of.
I mean, you're going to have some hardware in there to do that.
Hardware has to allow that to occur.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It can't be all software.
But you got to entirely redesign the front end of that to be able to do what AMD has done with the async compute.
And they've done that because they've been at it for longer. Makes sense.
This I when we were talking about this before the show started, I said it reminds me a lot of all the NVIDIA people talking about how much better tessellation was on Kepler and Maxwell compared to GCN. And it was absolutely true. The tessellation performance and capabilities on NVIDIA GPUs is superior to what GCN can do.
Yep.
However,
at the end of the day,
it doesn't freaking matter what that one subsystem can do individually, unless you have a specific task that is only looking at the subsystem. Games don't do that.
Unless you're playing Crysis.
Yeah, how many games really use tessellation to that extent?
None. Well, there were some that were accused of using too much because they were cheating for NVIDIA, right?
Crysis 2 was tessellating the water map underneath the level.
They said it was a bug. Whether or not it was or not, you can leave that up to somebody else. But like at the end of the day, the
end result matters.
It's the does the game play better on card A or card B?
Yeah.
And even take into account Maxwell that doesn't support asynchronous compute. If the 980 is still faster than the 290X and it doesn't have asynchronous compute and the 290X does, if the performance and result of the 980 is still better, then it's still a better card.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the subsystem bullshit happens to say. Now, you can move goalposts all you want as a fan or as a supporter of one side, and you can kind of change what the argument is. And there's just always going to be things that one architecture does better than the other. AMD's architecture is more granular. It was more apt to have bubbles, so it was more apt to have those bubbles removed and improve efficiency dramatically.
And bubbles are gaps in the
gaps in kind of workload, and like keeping the GPU busy.
Time where the GPU is idle. We're just not doing anything.
So if you have more shaders, it's more granular. We talked about the 2304 versus the 1280, right?
Yep.
And so there's more room for improvement on AMD's side. They're taking advantage of it, and it's working very well for them.
It is.
But to make some kind of, or to come into our story, or come into videos or other people's reviews and just say, still doesn't work, not parallel async compute, NVIDIA failed,
not thick enough,
whatever. It's
like
just
the Sam Breakstone.
It just breaks my head. And then I get people tweeting me videos about saying that reviewers like us are like artificially picking games that favor NVIDIA over one of the whole. It's gone too far. Like it just needs to settle down. Like pick the game you want to play.
We had
if you're playing Doom, go look at Doom benchmarks and boom, play that. If you're playing Witcher 3,
we did a separate video on Doom Vulkan stuff.
Yeah, it's not enough.
Like we did that.
It's not enough.
But the reason it's not in that 1060 article is we're doing like all the games in there are frame rated.
Yeah.
We can't frame rate that yet. That's why it's not in there. Yeah. Like if we could frame rate it, it would have been in there.
Yep.
Simple as that.
So I don't know. Well, honestly, this is like, we'll never know what asynchronous compute actually is and who is implementing it in what way specifically. Like it is my belief that NVIDIA as a corporation has to know there's no benefit to them to explain
how they do
asynchronous compute, or don't do it, or whatever you want to call it. There's no benefit to them at this point. All they will do is shit on themselves, or allow people to do that to them, right?
But they have it.
What they need to do is point to performance numbers and say, but right.
This is what they've been doing for the past 18 months.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. But numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, but sales, right? Like that's their only.
And even in Time Spy though, the AMD results do improve by more with asynchronous compute.
Yes, AMD. Yeah, they do.
Like, I mean, I don't
understand the argument. Like, yes,
the
AMD's implementation of async is better. Hence the plus more percentage.
Like,
number.
did they expect it's going to magically, instead of going 8% better, it's just magically going to be like 50% better because they did this other thing? Like,
I don't know.
The bubbles are only so big in the first place that they're removing with this async. Like, async compute doesn't magically make the GPU like process more raw. We've got get more raw performance.
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't make the clocks go up. Doesn't make more cores appear. Right. All it does is make it more efficient. There's less wasted time. There's less like context switching kind of stuff going on. There's less time where you're, oh, this frame's done. Okay, now send to the, get the next frame going.
Right.
Like that's a gap, right? That's a bubble in those plots, right? So you can only get so much better at it. Like,
Yeah, but think of all of the AC compute that Half-Life 3 is going to have. And don't you want to play Half-Life 3 well?
I think the problem is that a lot of people are going off of the Doom Vulkan thing. And they're not considering that maybe the OpenGL thing wasn't optimized the best on AMD in the first place, or maybe there's some other reasons that it looks so much better.
I mean, yeah.
But it's not. You can't just take that % gain and go, yes, every DX12 game in the future is going to have that % boost on AMD.
Yeah, but AMD has been essentially developing Vulkan drivers for 3 years now.
Right.
Yeah. That's where they put all their eggs, and they deserve to get the gains in Vulkan that they're getting. They absolutely deserve it. But my point, though, is that I think Doom is not the example to go off of that every game is going to do that % delta.
Well, we'll see.
Hey, it's kind of like back in the day when the K62 came out, and they had the special 3D Now Quake 2 patch.
It's
Improved
true.
performance to Pentium 2 type levels.
Cheated.
But that was the
quack.
only damn game that ever utilized it.
Quack Quake. That's what it was.
No, you're talking. That's
I know.
Quake 3 numbnuts.
I know. I know what game it was. I'm just saying they were cheating. That's all it was. All right, let's.
You know who doesn't cheat you?
You know who? Yes, thank you, Ken.
Matrox.
You know who doesn't cheat you?
I don't want to be cheated out of sleep.
You don't want to be cheated out of sleep. Sleep is very important. Even you know how many comments I get in YouTube videos about the circles under my eyes?
Even with this
Even
mattress.
with my daughter, I'm gonna save all of these and send them to her. Right? If it weren't for my Casper mattress, I'd probably come in looking dead.
Yeah.
Right?
He used to.
I did.
I always thought it was the makeup that made you look more lively.
People laugh at me when I try to say I'm going to put on makeup, but I think maybe I'm gonna do the cucumber thing on the eyes. I'm going to try that. I don't know. So this episode of the PC Perspective Podcast is obviously sponsored by Casper, guys. They are an online retailer of premium mattresses at a fraction of the cost. They're revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing the savings on to the consumer. That's you, the consumer. The benefits of Casper include being an obsessively engineered mattress at a fair price. Obsessively engineered things are pretty good. Obsessive fanboys are not, but obsessively engineered mattresses are a positive in my life. They combine two technologies, springy latex foam and a supportive memory foam to create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right of sink and just the right amount of bounce. Sync and bounce is important to my life. Breathable design, sleeps cool to help you regulate your temperature through the night. I got a Casper mattress. It's actually not only is it just a cool process to do it, it is a life-changing thing. Well, it was it was timely as well because of me having the kid right about the time I got this mattress. Right, first of all, my favorite thing of it is still the fact that my wife gets out of bed in the morning when she has to go to work at 6 a.m. It doesn't wake me up anymore.
Because it doesn't shake your
There's no
your side of the
springs.
bed.
It doesn't shake the rest of the bed. Like the dogs can jump up and down on the bed. Other than their collars making noise, the movement does not actually affect me. It is an incredibly comfortable bed. And the best part is you could buy it out online. You could try it risk-free. You could sleep on a Casper mattress for a 100-day period. So you don't have to go to a showroom and sit there awkwardly with trying to take your pants off and your shirt off so you can actually feel comfortable like you were actually going to sleep. I know this is how Josh bought his last mattress.
Sorta.
So you can buy a mattress, they ship it to your house, you get to try it for 100 days. If you don't like it, you call them and they take it back. You don't have to put it back in the little box, but they come and take it from you.
All right.
So there is that. So Casper's mattresses are made in the USA. You get free shipping and returns in US and Canada. You can get a Casper mattress for $500 for a twin or $950 for a king size. And if you compare that to industry average, that's an outstanding price point. Plus, you can save $50 towards a mattress purchase by going to casper.com/PCPer and entering the promo code PCPer. That's casper.com/PCPer, promo code PCPer. Terms and conditions apply. We thank Casper for their support of the PC Perspective podcast.
Well, it's one of my friends on Twitter, a guy named Peter. He talked to us about that, wanting a new mattress. And we gave him the code, and he ordered it, and he was extremely pleased.
At least he used our code, right? You did say
He
used
did.
the code. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Saving $50.
And the fact that it supports asynchronous sleeping is wonderful.
You're right. Two people can sleep on it at the same time. One can get up and go to work
People to
and not
that,
disturb
you'll
the
sleep
other.
even better.
It's like there's 2 queues.
I have 2 dogs to sleep in the bed sometimes. So that's like 4
got
queues.
4 queues.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's very asynchronous. And the dogs, sometimes they stay in bed when everybody's up.
Yeah.
So,
They're still doing that work on the bed, if you know what I mean.
let's talk about a couple. This is the Sebastian corner of our podcast.
Oh,
He's not
God.
on the show.
He's not going to
He's
do
not on the show,
he's
so we
not
can
gonna
run
pop
through them
up.
really quick.
Oh.
But these are actually really good reviews. I wanted to at least mention them and tell people on the podcast to go read them. The RIOTORO PRISM CR1280 RGB full tower enclosure. I never remember the word enclosure when I'm trying to think of a synonym for case or chassis.
Yeah.
Maybe now I will that I've
Okay.
said it out loud. So this is a brand new taker to the case market. Right?
looks
brand
mean.
new. Looks what?
That looks mean. Is the bottom half darker?
It's just lighter.
RIOTORO.
Oh, it's just
So
like-
yeah, the Toro here is the kind of the bull logo. I know a lot of the people that are involved in this that came from other companies that made cases. So they put together a pretty good product. It's actually decent looking. It's good looking and it's decently priced and it's got some pretty interesting features. You can see kind of the layout here in
Is that
this
tempered
shot.
glass?
I don't know the
Or is
answer
it
to
plastic?
that. Let's see.
It's a decent sized
Plastic, steel,
believe it's
aluminum, and
plastic.
plastic.
For a minute,
But it's
the
on the
way
top,
he had the
too.
light.
Oh, it is on the top. You're right. I like the kind of the front grille there. It's all like no I'm a fan of getting rid of optical drives. That should be obvious now. I know
Yep.
Josh is not, but I'm a fan of getting rid of optical drives.
I'm fine with a USB external when you need it. That's it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
and when
that's
you need
it.
it.
And so you can see here on the front, you got your fans, you got your Bull logo there, and then you've got this RGB control. You get your power button, your RGB button, 2 fan speed setting buttons, and you've got 4 USB, which is nice.
Where's my turbo button?
I think this reset button is a little bit too large for my taste.
Oh, that's the whole reset button?
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to plug in a USB stick and
Oh,
damn.
all my stuff I was working on. You know what? I think we should make it a. This is gonna be part of my QuakeCon speech.
You need a little lift plastic.
Everybody should disconnect their reset button.
Oh, well, sometimes you need it.
What do you need it for? Hold down the power button.
Resetting.
That's true.
If
I
you
ain't got time for that.
if I mean, like, what's happening that you have to hit the reset now? Now, if a virus is actively maybe infecting your
You've
system
got
and it's-
crypto locker.
Yeah.
and you've got like it's like a movie scene where I need to turn off now, and if you have to hold the power button for 3 seconds and it finishes its infection before it shuts off, then I could see that maybe being a problem. But other than that, I think reset buttons should be gone. Optical drives gone,
Yeah.
reset buttons gone,
Yeah.
or
I
behind
think you're a communist.
behind like the acrylic switch, like like on
Some
a,
motherboards have reset buttons on the back plate.
What?
No, that's for BIOS reset.
No, there's some. There's some.
Oh no, there's
bias.
something.
Yeah, Jeremy knows.
Like my
back me up.
X58 still, for some
No.
reason, it has a power and a reset button on the motherboard
well,
itself.
That's why. That's why I still remember because it's
Not the
X58.
backplate.
Oh yes. Sorry, I haven't seen those boards in like a decade, guys.
It's getting pretty close.
It is. I like the way the top of this case looks, though. That's another plastic
Yeah.
window in there, but I do like the way it looks.
Just worried that
And
might
you've got
get a
the
little scratched
multiple
up.
kind of bays and modules, or not modules, but multiple bays.
Air
inside.
filter at the bottom, of course, which
Air filter
Sebastian
at
likes.
the bottom. You can see the inside there.
They're separated though, so you pull one out from the front and one out from the back.
Ah, damn it.
Goes
So it's
both
half
ways.
good.
You know what I'm saying?
It's half good, exactly. So I mean, it's got a good design. It's got the magnetic filter up top. We can see Sebastian's hand modeling there.
Ooh.
You think that's his hand or his wife's hand?
No, that's his.
Do you think he's going to be
That's his
upset?
I think it's his kid's hand.
You think he's going to be upset if we're questioning it? Either way,
It's
Actually, he hired a homeless man, cleaned up his hand.
his nail beds are quite nice.
wash your hands. You got to do some pictures. So here's the back. Very nice.
And a burrito.
Ooh, look, they got like a nice RIOTORO logo on the back there as well. So all I really want to see is this page.
With it all lit up.
Boom.
Whoa.
So it's RGB. Sebastian took all these pictures individually, by the way. These are not,
Of course he did.
this is not stock photos. So you can see all the different colors here. You got your red, your orange, yellow, your green, your teal, your white.
Is
your
it just the front logo that
purple,
changes the
fuchsia,
colors?
and blue? And also like the stuff around the buttons up top.
Okay.
And the fans.
And the fans change. Yeah,
All
so
right.
there we go.
So-
Let's get a better idea.
Oh, yeah.
So to answer your
Tell by-
question, no, it is not just the front logo.
Okay.
But a very, very good photography work. This is not stock footage.
No.
He was.
Got that B-roll?
We had a discussion about maybe the picture was too good, and that people would think that it was stock photography.
So we have to
how do we do
disclaim it
that?
very
So-
carefully.
Yeah.
So he didn't
We just
hire
used to
that.
put Sebastian's Peak Studios at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's what the PC Perspective logo is hopefully to do. Hopefully people wouldn't watermark stock photos. I bet people do, but you know.
Yeah.
So we got some of the results here in terms of CPU temps above ambient. It's pretty good with liquid
On
cooling. With air, it's okay. I mean, it's at the bottom of the list with air on it, so that's actually pretty impressive. GPU temps about the same. Yeah, it does pretty well. Now on noise levels, where are we at, Jeremy? Ooh, okay. Hence the trade-off.
Can't hear you, Ryan.
Yeah, hence the trade-off. It is louder than the rest of the cases.
Well, it's because
the
most of it
loudest
is
case.
like basically transparent to sound, so it's just kind of.
Transparent to light, even you might say.
Yeah.
$149 on Amazon. So a little bit pricey, but still I think within range of a lot of other things out there. He liked it a lot, gave it a gold award. News levels were higher due to vented front panel.
News levels.
Yeah, otherwise known as noise levels. And the price was a little bit there, but quality construction, spacious interior for large components. Josh, extra cable routing, extra storage, good cooling support. RGB lighting is well implemented, built-in fan controller. I would put as a negative, giant ass reset button as well on there. And then the next Sebastian story is the Wraith CPU cooler. Josh, did you actually have one of these in?
Well, I have the non-glowy one, but otherwise it's the same fan.
There's a
It
glowy
just
one?
doesn't have the shroud over it.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
I replaced. No, it performs exactly the same. It just doesn't have
okay.
the shroud and the glowy LED on it.
a
But
big
it's
copper
the
plate.
same cooler, same fan, same RPM, and I replaced a self-contained unit with that, and it did warm up a little bit as compared, but it's so much quieter. It's it cools still really well, but Laramie isn't exactly a hotspot when it comes to local
Sure.
weather.
So this result is actually pretty good on an AMD FX 8370. It's a little bit better than the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo, but this is a cooler that comes with your processor if you
pretty
buy
good.
one that does it. Obviously, if you look at the older AMD thermal stock solution, we're talking 13 degrees C difference under load.
Yeah, and a whole lot quieter.
Yeah, and then here we go. Noise levels from 48 to 44. So.
Still louder than the Evo, but
Still louder than the Evo. Evo has a significantly larger fan, so it can run at a lower RPM. It's a larger heatsink in general too. So,
and
but overall pretty impressive. I see what you mean by the lighty up one. Okay, I didn't see the illuminated logo before.
one of the things with the Wraith is that the fan, like it's always the same volume, right?
No,
I thought it ramps. Because he
A
has a
little
video.
bit.
He has a
I thought
video
not
of
as
it
much as the
changing
old one.
speeds.
Okay.
yeah. He does have a video embedded in the top of the second page that ramps from 1700 RPM to 3000 RPM if you would like to take a listen.
Yeah.
I will have to.
It's very well white balanced as well. Video. I must say.
Yes. With good
Shocking
audio.
from Sebastian.
Really good audio.
Yeah, yes, exactly. You would expect that. So it offers the Wraith with the 8370, the A350, 6350, and the A1078 90K. So processors range from 139 to 190 or 206. So I mean, it's pretty good to get a what's a Hyper 212 Evo for $30 on
It's
Amazon?
about $39.
40, yeah.
Okay.
29 to
So I mean
39.
that's good on them, and it's the exact opposite of what Intel did.
Which is no more
Take
coolers.
them out of the box.
Which is no more
Eliminate the
coolers
problem.
in their thing.
People are complaining about our coolers. No more coolers for
That's
you.
right. Just rip that shit out.
We don't have money to engineer new coolers.
They did that with their Xeons a few generations ago.
Well,
Kind of pissed me off since I had just ordered 44 of them for a build, only to discover when they all showed up that none of them came with heat sinks.
should any research?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
A Patreon update. Josh Walrus pledged $5.99.
Is this going to be a thing now?
$5.99.
Dimitri, not from Hardware Canucks, pledged $4.80. So thank you very much for that. And Take Your Reasoned Analysis and GTFO just edited their pledge from $51 to $59.99.
$59.99.
Nice on you.
Take Your Reasoned Analysis and
Analysis.
GTFO. Yeah. Yeah.
55. I think I know
Thanks,
who that
Jim.
is,
Thanks,
actually.
Jim. Oh, man. Okay. Thank you guys for that. That's awesome. Run through these news items real fast. Details emerge on Intel's upcoming Kaby Lake and Apollo Lake powered NUCs. Jeremy, anything stand out in here to you on this, or is it just we always
Well,
go ahead?
the Babby Canyon is the Kaby Lake.
The what?
The Babby
Oh.
Canyon
Oh,
Babby Canyon?
that's an awful
is the
name.
Kaby Lake.
How is Babby Canyon formed?
Yes.
Wait, no, that's terrible. Baby Canyon? You slip out of your mama's baby canyon?
I'm sorry, but like
They really must have fired all of the marketing people at Intel, huh?
somebody screwed up on that one.
Wow.
Baby Canyon.
Those babbies are formed in the Babby Canyon.
It'll never be the same.
Baby.
This is my new favorite computer.
And that's the big one.
Oh, yeah.
That's the DDR4 Kaby Lake one.
The Core i7, Core i5 is Baby Canyon.
Oh, man.
Oh my god.
Oh, wow.
I don't. Okay, so
Arches Canyon, nowhere near as funny.
no,
Sadly.
you're right. What? So what else?
Oh,
What else do we
dear.
have to talk about except for the name?
Well, I mean, the names are just incredible.
Josh can't get over it. He's turning purple over there.
Oh man.
But they're both the same sort of NUC that you're used to. So,
Yeah.
like the 115 mil by 111 by 51 mil. They're absolutely tiny. Metal construction with a plastic overlay.
Looks like Type C.
Yep.
Or there's
You've got
Thunderbolt,
Type-C on
or
both
just
of them.
Type C. There's a Thunderbolt logo on the thing.
That's the Baby Canyon.
Yeah.
Hey, do you see this?
What?
What is that rolling shutter?
It's not
Do you see that on here? Look at the screen, Alan. Do you see that?
rolling shut. Oh,
Stop doing that, please.
listen,
You're
that's
going
your
to make the
screen.
viewer sick.
your screen is doing the rolling shutter because it's
And
updating
now it's
from
a
top to
whiteout.
bottom.
Yeah, I don't.
All
yeah.
laptops do that, Ryan.
Yeah, but Arches Canyon will be the Apollo Lake, so
Okay.
a little bit slower, uses DDR3, and no Thunderbolt support.
Yeah.
It does have the
Lower
USB
cost.
3.1 though, so it's still pretty good. It just can't fit as many things in as the other model.
Somebody in the chat room says Baby Cannon is greater than Baby Canyon.
That,
No? I don't know.
that'll be next year's model.
All right, maybe. We have a rumor of NVIDIA's next generation architecture Volta will
Oh,
be built on the
God.
same 16 nanometer process
Already?
tech. This doesn't surprise me, Dust. Does it surprise you
The same as Pascal. Is that what
that it
you-
would be
No.
on 16 and not 10?
No, it doesn't. I mean, certainly we have some movement on 10 nanometer, but the jump from 28 to 20 was obviously problematic and didn't
And
work out.
long-winded.
Yeah, and the jump then from 28 to 16 and 14 is still it's in its infancy. I mean, we can. I was thinking of an editorial of writing, comparing, and contrasting Samsung's 14 nanometer and TSMC's 16 nanometer products, and we still don't have a whole lot of data on them. But these are some of the first really large mass-produced ASICs. I mean, certainly we've had ARM chips that have utilized these processes in the past using the early processes, LPE, and from Samsung, and I can't remember I think it's just LPP, not the LPP plus. Again, too many damn acronyms.
Are you down with LPP?
Yeah, you know me. But these are still relatively new. And Volta is supposed to be coming out 7 to 8 months from now. And there's just absolutely no time to even think about 10 nanometer at this point, because that is still so incredibly early. We're going to get some early samples of more basic parts. I know ARM is talking about 10 nanometer, but it's going to be a 2017 part. And if you think about it, the Samsung Exynos and the Apple A9X that were both 16 and 14, they came out last spring. I mean, spring of 2015, and we're only now seeing GPUs released at the beginning of the summer that utilize 16 and 14 nanometer products. And it's just, I think it is a bigger hurdle to get larger, higher powered products out of these process nodes than we have seen in the past. And certainly, with ARM, you're not as worried about TDP and power, because you're looking at envelopes in between, half a watt to 5 watts, maybe 15 watts at the most. And that's a big difference from 120, 150, 170 watt GPU that consists of up to 8 billion. What is a 1080? Is it 16 billion or is it 8?
Wait, say it again.
Transistor
1080 transistor count.
It's 8.
8. Okay, yeah. So it's P100. That's
that's 16.
The monster. Yeah. So it's a huge difference there. We're just not ready for 10 nanometer. It's
my body.
And not only
ready.
that, but TSMC is going to be improving their 16 nanometer product. They're probably going to do a few things to save some space, to make it a little bit smaller and more in line with what Samsung does with 14 nanometer. But a lot of the improvements are also going to be coming in materials, how they're laying down those materials, and how effective they can make those transistors switch at power levels that currently they wouldn't be able to do. But 8 months down the road, you're going to be able to do some more interesting things.
Very cool. If you guys were looking for the best possible place to get your DirectX 12 and Vulkan implementation, where would it be?
The best place?
Yeah, where would you want to see it immediately? For me,
Apparently stuck on the side of a dolphin?
it's GameCube.
Oh.
RetroArch announces Vulkan API support and asynchronous compute support for Dolphin Emulator.
It's been an ATI conspiracy all along.
Dolphin Emulator also announced DirectX 12 support. They only just recently discussing working with the open alternative Vulkan. Looks like LibRetro developer community will beat them with an update to RetroArch and the LibRetro API. This page exists according to Google, but 404, so it should be coming soon. They also claim their Vulkan port of Angry Lion makes use of asynchronous compute. It's unclear what it's used for. I'm sure it will make for interesting benchmarks. I'm not sure what the value of benchmarking GameCube era games is on modern GPUs, but it's really interesting.
So this is separate.
Oh, it is.
This is RetroArch, which is the framework for like a bunch of different systems. He was just mentioning Dolphin porting to Vulkan in the beginning of the news.
Oh, okay.
Like I think Allyn's used RetroArch in the past, haven't you?
I have used Dolphin.
Okay, never mind then. Dolphin is a GameCube editor. RetroArch is like you bolt in a NES, an NES, like
Okay. It's a framework for emulators.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a bunch of different systems.
But it doesn't build in the emulation system for each console as part of RetroArch, does it?
No, you need a framework for...
It's like the display pipeline, I think. Kind of like the engine that everything...
Okay.
I don't know. I really don't know much about it.
LibRetro, is that what we're talking about? No, we're talking about RetroArch. Right?
Same thing, I think.
RetroArch is most popularly known for being a program with which you can play mini emulators and games which have been customized and tailor-ported to the LibRetro API. Fast slice, lightweight, and
so
portable.
the LibRetro API.
It's a simple API that allows for the creation of games and emulators. It's very simple in nature, yet very powerful. Requires explanation in order to truly grasp how useful it can be. Yes, it does. LibRetroGL Vulkan. What do they say? Aside from retro-style games and emulators that depend on software rendering, where you typically need nothing more than the ability to render a frame buffer, the LibRetro API also allows you to target OpenGL and Vulkan. This allows you to create LibRetro ports that use OpenGL or Vulkan as part of their internal rendering. From a portability perspective, we highly recommend that you try to target both so that your LibRetroGL port will work on both mobile and desktop computers.
Yeah, I don't know what the benefit to 2D
I don't know.
emulation is for.
It's neat to think about, though.
For which games?
But some fired engineer from Ardex certainly knows.
Yeah.
AMD let him go. Damn it. I'm going to program.
Because there are some of those games that are actually trying to do 3D rendering.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
Very basic polygons and
Yeah.
whatnot, sure.
Yeah. Just imagine how fast you could do that on Volta.
Speaking of emulation, I will be buying this next item. This is the Tiny NES.
I would say get in line because it seems like an awful lot of people are buying.
Well, sure. Well, it's not for sale yet.
Yeah.
And it's not on pre-order yet.
How long is that cable?
I
hope it's
exactly
longer than
that
6
long.
inches.
It's 4 inches. It's actually 4 inches, but your wife tells me it's 6 inches, Josh.
Yeah.
The NES Classic Edition is small enough to fit in the palm of your hand and offers 30 built-in classic NES games. Available holiday for $59.99. But it does come with one controller, like one normal-size classic controller. That connection reminds me of...
It is the same connection as the Wii Nunchuck.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Oh.
So if your game doesn't work, can you actually lift up the lid and blow in it?
We don't know the answer to that yet. I don't think the lid will open.
Maybe
but
there's
the
a
power
sensor.
and reset button apparently are actual power buttons.
The screen will just blink like white and black, and then you'll just have to open that lid, and there's a little sensor for when you like to sense your breath.
Yeah.
You know? So
Just blow across it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah,
There's a
no, it's on.
breathalyzer in there?
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm really curious the hardware in this thing.
It's probably just some
Could be a
system on a
Raspberry.
chip.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be an actual Raspberry Pi, but it will be built. I mean, it's going to be built just like that, right?
So this is NVIDIA doing. I'm not NVIDIA, but Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
This
it's
is an
just gonna
actual
be like a
Nintendo product.
DS. It's just the same DS chips, ARM-based
Yeah.
DS, because that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, I know Nintendo doesn't believe in the internet, but then why wouldn't they let you buy games on this thing?
Because they want to sell you a second one later with different games for $59.
I mean, they're going for that market
Don't
of
let
the
Pokemon
little
Go
gadget.
fool you. They're still nuts
This
over
is
there.
a great list of games, though. If you look at this list of games
No,
on the
it
site,
isn't.
Yeah, it is. Bubble Bobble, Castlevania 1 and 2, Donkey Kong and Junior, Double Dragon 2, Excite Bike, the original Final Fantasy. Like, these aren't even all first-party games. Final Fantasy is on here. Galaga, Ghosts and Goblins, Mario Brothers, Mega Man 2, the best Mega Man, Ninja Gaiden or Gaiden, Pac-Man, Punch-Out, not with Mike Tyson,
But Mr. Dream.
Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3, Tecmo Bowl, The Legend of Zelda, and Zelda 2.
But it's got the
Ball.
crap version of Contra.
That's a good
I don't
list.
see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I want my Tetris.
So, TMNT
Come on.
is an
Oh.
awful game.
Tetris.
One.
I know it
Yeah,
is.
Where's Tetris?
Super C, I would rather have regular
Tetris is
Contra
not there.
as great
Yeah.
as well.
Licensing issues.
That's,
But
Tetris
remember-
is a huge licensing problem, and I can't really blame them for
Yeah,
that.
but remember, Mega Man. I mean, a lot of these games, Mega Man.
Come on, Tecmo Bowl. If you had
these are all
LT
third-party
as,
games,
as
so
your
they had to
defensive man,
work
you
out
could just ruin
licensing.
Oh
everybody
yeah,
else's
you just
day.
walk through it.
Yeah.
It also doesn't have ET.
Also, a
that's
horrible
right.
game.
That's Atari.
Oh, that's right.
Ryan, the licensing isn't that big of an issue. They've been doing this for 10 years now.
Yeah, but in a virtual console where you can revoke the right to sell it at any time, like this is now a physical hardware
Sure,
item that's
but-
going on a shelf. So I imagine they had to sign new deals for it.
Yeah, but
But
those
like not all these
probably weren't
games
very
are
difficult.
Like Dr. Mario's on here. That's awesome.
I know. But for anyone who's getting tired of Dark Souls that's just too easy, fire up Ninja Gaiden and be prepared to cry.
Yeah,
and
Ninja Gaiden is hard.
things
But it was
across.
also the first game. Look at these pictures on Amazon, Ken.
It's just so disappointing. It could be
Look
so
at the box.
much
The box is
more.
amazing.
It's like a little mini.
Yeah,
it's
this
pretty
is
cool.
perfect. No, this is a good start.
Yeah.
It's actually okay. It's bigger than I thought it was. Where that is a very small Japanese person's hand. I don't know.
This is you remember 10, 15 years ago when
It's hard, but I'll try.
the stupid Atari 25-in-1 stuff that you were plugging into the RC on your TV
Yeah.
came out. Nintendo should have did this then.
Yeah,
That's true. It is. It is.
Oh,
so
I've got
long
one
time.
across over on the shelf there.
Yeah,
agreed.
You know,
I don't have an RCA plug into my TV anymore, but you know.
I've got one of those C64 directed TVs where the whole thing is in the joystick.
Yeah, well, I've got one on that shelf over there.
Yeah.
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 It takes AA
Couldn't you hack
batteries.
one of those
and-
C64 ones?
Yeah, you could. They had 1541 like drive interface pins like on the
Yeah,
PCB.
if you rip it open.
See,
Yeah.
that's what I secretly hope the NES one is. It's not an ARM controller. It's an actual.
Yeah, so you want it to be hackable.
I don't.
You want to have an actual slot hacked onto one where you know,
Don't we all want that?
where you
That would
actually
be
plug
awesome.
the cartridge into.
I wouldn't do it, but it would be awesome.
It would be awesome. Yeah.
Is there a serial port on the back?
Let's get to our last.
There's always cereal somewhere.
Last two of the week. First, well, this one is ARM. This doesn't. I don't know what this is going to affect. ARM Holdings, otherwise known as ARM, makers of all of the processors in the world ever.
Yeah, pretty much.
In mobile devices at least.
Bought by SoftBank.
Bought by SoftBank for $32 billion US. So like that's $6 Canadian and probably $8.5.
No, that's
British pounds.
That's
Great
like
Britain pounds.
Like 68 billion pound.
So ARM is being purchased by SoftBank. SoftBank is this kind of weird Japanese conglomerate company that they own internet providers in different parts of the world. They own Sprint here in the US.
They're kind of a telco.
Yeah, but they do a bunch of other stuff too, right? I mean, like the name implies, I imagine they were in the banking businesses at some point. I don't know. But so, like, there's no technological things that are affected by this purchase. But Josh, what do you worry or wonder or think about the fact that ARM, wanted to be sold? Like, it wasn't like a hostile takeover or something like that, right?
No, they wanted to get out of Great Britain, make a Brexit, as it were.
But if they're sold for that much, sold from who?
ARM.
Well, no. Okay, so ARM was a publicly traded corporation, right?
Okay.
And I think the closing price the day before was like £11, and these people who bought it at £17 per share.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they got controlling interest. They're kind of buying it out. Will be what, a wholly owned subsidiary of SoftBank and
okay. So it'll still
not
be
entirely
ARM.
sure what that's going to affect trading.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know if a whole lot is going to happen.
If the licensing stays the same, it's going to be the same, right?
Yeah, I think I was
If
talking
the
with
licensing
Dominic,
changes,
it would
holy
be a
crap.
worse buy if ARM was actually a radio chip producer, because then they could optimize the chips for SoftBank's
Sprint networks
and Sprint and
T-Mobile
stuff,
and Asia,
and everybody else gets to suck behind tit. But they don't. ARM doesn't do that. That's like Qualcomm and Intel and some of these other guys with the radios and the modems.
I mean, I don't think you buy a company for $32 billion to give yourself a 15% edge in mobile.
Yeah,
networks.
it doesn't make sense. But
there's not enough
they're
money
probably
in that
looking at the
market.
market and saying, ARM essentially owns 95% of the mobile market of all handsets made, and that is never going to shrink, and there are only going to be more people in the world, and there's going to be more cell phones made every 2 years, and everybody's going to buy new stuff back then. It's just a good business principle and practice to buffer your bottom line, and that you have a performer that will do what it does every corner and do it solidly, and kind of help the entire company around when you're looking at quarterly results. They're promising to double overall the workforce around the world, not just in England, but I mean they've got offices in Norway, France, all over the place that design stuff. So I know there are a lot of ASIC engineers that have been laid off by AMD and Intel as of late, and it will be a kind of buyer's market when it comes to ARM adding more people, and SoftBank is huge.
Yep.
Far larger than ARM, and they're promising a lot of funding that they can rely upon to be able to do what they do and continue to do what they do, and being a near monopoly in the mobile market.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'd have to look it up again, but the last time it was about 80% of pretty much all silicon on the planet was ARM. When you get right down to the little
Just
bits
the
and pieces
quantity,
that are all being
yeah.
sold.
Yeah, I mean, like, think
I
of what
believe
else
it.
is out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got Risk.
MIPS.
Yeah, MIPS.
That's
And then you got
still does make it into very, very, very cheap generic Chinese phones.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it's in phones even?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think MIPS runs on Android can run on MIPS.
Yeah. So no, I know that is the case from talks with Imagination. So this is more interesting to see this. This doesn't affect their roadmap potentially. It may just affect nothing. They may just say we're going to buy you as a profit farm and keep doing what you're doing, or we may see some interesting changes over the next several years. But we'll see going forward. Finally, report. NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1070M and 1060M specs are leaking out. Apparently, according to this. According to this report from videocards.com, this GTX 1070M will have 2048 CUDA cores, 128 more than the desktop version, which sounds insane,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
You think that's probably actually
Low
the
clock?
GTX 1080M or 1080? Like,
Yeah,
remember, like NVIDIA in recent past has gone like the GTX 980 for mobile was the exact same chip as the desktop 980,
Yeah.
just bend a little bit for lower power.
They're getting the number of cores from GPU-Z?
Yeah.
Like, I thought GPU-Z used a lookup table.
No.
Yeah. No, it does.
And Video Cards also points out the TMU count should technically be 128. So that's sort of like a misspelling from there.
Oh.
It smells a little bit fishy, but
Yeah.
then again, who knows?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the specifications are probably going to be all wrong in all of this, but obviously these people are taking screenshots from notebooks.
Yeah.
And hence while we're getting these names, right? So
Yep.
my guess is that this table from Video Cards will be very incorrect at some point, at least the 1070. I can't imagine that the mobile 1070 would have more CUDA cores than the desktop 1070. That would be nutso.
That'd be silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's not
I could
clocked
see
all that
them.
much lower.
I could see them matching specs with the desktop parts,
With just a lower clock.
with just bidding it towards even like slightly lower power. Like keep in mind,
Yeah.
like the 1060 is a 120 watt part. You can get away with that in bigger machines. Now you have to have smaller parts. Now you have to have 75 watt. You have to have 35 watt GPUs to get into other builds. But NVIDIA has already shown that, hey, if they're willing to put the GTX 980, which was a 165 watt TDP part into mobile machines, then I don't see any reason why they wouldn't put the 150 of the 1070, or maybe even the 180 of the 1080 in there. So that could be interesting. It could make for a very interesting late summer fall.
It's the 1070 Tim.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see what happens with all that stuff. Let's get into our hardware software picks of the week.
Do we have to?
You do.
I'm having so much fun.
You do. Here's mine,
Somebody
everybody.
didn't put a link in.
No, I didn't put a link because there is no link. This is a limited edition.
Got it right here.
They only made 100 of them in the world, and they sent one to me because they're suckers.
So your pick of the week is something you can never buy.
If my pick of the week is something, well, maybe I'll sell it to you. Think about
That'd
it.
be
eBay.
So this is from Sapphire, if I can get the box of it, and it is a Sapphire Nitro robot. Look at it, Allyn.
is it a Gundam?
You're not allowed to
impressed?
get mad at me for a pick ever
Are you
again.
impressed? At least it as from a video card company. You picked rubber nubbins once.
And I'll tell you, I've been playing with those for the past 3 weeks.
Yep.
I'm playing with them right now.
But he's been sticking them on his body and then playing with
Everybody
them,
likes
so-
playing with my rubber
I always
nubbins.
wanted to feel like a dog with 8 nipples.
What do you think about my robot here?
Okay, it's a cool robot.
It is pretty cool.
Doesn't
little
do
robot.
anything.
It'll fit in very... no, it doesn't do anything.
No, it does nothing.
It is supposed to excite me and interest me for their upcoming Sapphire Nitro graphics card that is on its way here tomorrow.
Okay.
Do you feel excited about a video card by
so
looking at this robot?
I am so excited.
I feel excited about
It's
something.
actually kind of cool looking. But it does not articulate.
I'm just
I will say
excited
that.
for more MechWarrior games that I'm never going to see.
I mean, I can articulate it if I try really hard.
Is it resin? Is it hard? Is it heavy?
Yeah,
It's a solid. It's like
Yeah.
looks
it's
cast.
plastic, but it's solid.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like solid cast plastic.
And it's well painted. It looks worn. It looks. This will be
Yeah.
in the church for sure.
Yes.
This will be in the church of video games.
Be hanging on the crucifix.
We have an icon.
Well, I'm not going to go that far. I we'll see. But this is Cinema by Sapphire. Well, whenever I get that video card in, this guy will be in a couple of pictures. I think it has to be, maybe, can it hold the card maybe in some way?
I was going to say, is it tall enough that it would hold up slot 1?
We can't articulate
Maybe.
him.
Do you have to import Sebastian down to get really good photography?
Yes. I keep trying to import him down, but his wife keeps
Vetoing.
undeporting him.
Yes.
We'll see. One day. All right, so Jeremy, what do you got?
Well, I remember when Fallout games looked like Fallout games and not like Skyrim with guns.
You're like 100 years old. Do you know that?
We've got a new one-ish, sort of. There's been a group of guys who have been modding Fallout 2 for the better part of a decade now. They're Czech. And so the game's been out for a little while.
That's
and they've
some
been
serious dedication.
They've been troubleshooting it. They just finished translating it into English. And as I put in there, and it shows on the screen, the original version had almost 2.5 million lines of text characters. 2.5 million text characters, 80 maps, and 730 scripts. Whole bunch of quests, solvable in different ways. And from what I've been able to bash at it so far, it's in the old sort of tongue-in-cheek but not very nice style of Fallout. Some of the dialogue's a little bit unpolished, but go back and play Fallout 1 and 2, and yes, some of the dialogue was unpolished. So a huge amount of work they put into this. The mod itself is absolutely free. I picked up Fallout 2. I picked up all the Fallouts on Good Old Games for free at one point. Both they and Steam are selling them for about $10 if you don't have them, or just hold off until the next time they're on sale, because guaranteed Fallout games are going to be on sale again.
Yes.
And the good old isometric
couple weeks.
drug addiction.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That actually means something sort of. It's impressive. Give it a shot, because the price is pretty damn good.
Ken points out that QuakeCon is usually when they'll do Bethesda sales.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Not even usually. Fallout will be on sale during
Okay,
QuakeCon.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I guarantee it.
Josh, you're up.
Me. You know what? You guys have this one, and you've seemed to like it.
Yep.
But finally, it has gone down from that $399 price point to something a lot more palatable, a lot more competitive with the Thrustmaster Logitech G29 for $299.99. Thank you.
All right.
It's hand-stitched leather, lots of metal, and those the pedals are
Kind of
actually
leather.
really quite good.
Wait, the G29 is which one? Xbox or PS?
That's the PS4.
Okay.
So PS4 and PC.
Yeah, because I think the PS4 one had more buttons and knobs. And
It
switches.
does
It
have
does,
more
yes.
buttons and knobs.
Yeah.
Oh, little.
Look at all those
Yeah.
buttons.
So
and
if you're
knobs.
gonna-
You know what? You can get the 920 and you can put more of your little nubbins on them and just be just as happy.
just flick them randomly.
just push the nubbins and
Yeah.
they're just like,
it
push
won't
the
actually do
nubbins and
anything.
say,
but
button,
it'll
it doesn't
feel
do
like
something.
the
it.
button does nothing.
All right, let's get to our last pick, Alan.
All right, so puzzle game, pretty addictive, pretty chillax, kind of like lay back and just want to dork around with the puzzle game while you're waiting for something.
Sure.
It's called Clocky. I've been playing it since the day it came out.
July 13th.
Yeah. It's pretty cool because it's very simplistic. There's no instructions. There's no awards for finishing the puzzle.
Is there an arrow to direct me which direction to walk?
No, nothing.
Oh.
You start with the very simple puzzle, which is actually that upper right picture. That's that one
Yeah.
right there that you can't click on.
I could probably figure that one out.
But you just kind of swap tiles at the beginning, and then there's things that are like turntables, and there's other things that you kind of shift around, and it just kind of builds. The different puzzle metrics all build on themselves as you go through the game, and eventually it gets to the point where if you just looked at one of those and hadn't gotten that way yourself, you'd be like, what the hell is that? To even figure out what to do. But since you kind of go on, that final puzzle there is pretty confusing looking, if you didn't know what you were trying to accomplish.
I don't know
what I'm doing
And it's like a
99 cents.
yeah, it's $1 on Steam for PC. It's also on iOS and Android, I think, also for $1.
There's also a demo version here with different levels.
Somebody made some just kind of ripped off some of the puzzles and put it on a website or something. I don't know.
That was posted by the developer, a recent update.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the guy though.
Has to be.
Maybe.
It's right here.
Oh,
Clocky is my second puzzle game after successful Hook.
yeah. Hook was pretty cool, but I like the new one better.
All right, there you go.
Yep.
That is our picks of the week, everybody. Thank you for joining us. PCPro.com/podcast is the URL to find all the back episodes, your RSS feeds, video files, anything, SoundCloud links, YouTube videos, etc. And again, make sure you go to PCPro.com/subscribe, sign up for our notification list. We'll send you notes when we're going to do live streams. We had to move back I think I talked about we were going to do a Sapphire stream this Friday, or it's going to move to next Friday now, just to a delay in a shipping of a thing. Not the robot.
Not the robot.
The robot made it here, so
Yeah.
it's not. Relax, guys. It's not the robot. And make sure you go to PCPro.com and look through the stories and the news and the reviews that we do. It's important that you do that. That's where all of our money gets made. So our final Patreon updates. Jeremy Peterson updated their pledge from $10 to $14.99.
Nice.
So thank you very much. Jeremy Hellstorm.
Right.
Jeremy Hailstorm edited their pledge to $6.66. And yeah. Oh, and look at this one. We got a brand new pledge from Charles, from good old buddy Chuck.
Charles in charge. Scott Baio.
$50.
GOP convention.
From Chuck.
Well, Charles in charge pledged $50
Wow.
to the Patreon. So
that makes
a
it
massive
easy.
thanks out to. I
That
mean,
means he's in charge.
must be still getting royalties from the TV show. So that's nice.
Chachi and
Thank you
Joni.
very much.
All right.
You know it.
All right, everybody.
In charge of my days and my nights.
Always the nights. We'll be back next week, everyone. See you later. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
And I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malventano, who is not
And
Josh
the other
Wall.
guy is Ken.
There you go.
And then
There's
Ken.
Alan Malventano.
Yes.
Bye.